There is no safe zone all over the Gaza Strip. Not a single inch is safe. The Israelis are lying. We were told that from the Gaza Valley southward is safe. We were forced to take shelter there. We are all civilians. All those inside the house were women and children. I was the oldest and the only male among them. I repeat, all were women and children. He's asked what his message is for the world that's watching. There is nothing called the international community. This is a lie. There is nothing called the international court or international humanitarian law. All of these are just lies. All these names were created to back the strong against the weak, the oppressor against the oppressed. Teams continue to dig for any survivors, knowing full well there is little chance anyone could have survived this.
I'm calling for a special fast and prayer on behalf of the Palestinian people from evening of March 10th to Monday evening, March 11th, 2024. If you go to the Jewish Museum of the Palestinian Experience, you will see for yourself how the Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims lived peacefully for many, many years.
15 years later, the cinema is taking its first steps. Cameramen employed by the Lumiere brothers filming at Jerusalem Station provide the first moving pictures taken in Palestine. From now on, the camera is a recording eye, and what it records is this: a society much like that of Cairo, Damascus, or Beirut, in an Arab city much like any other. By the end of the 19th century, Palestine has 500,000 inhabitants, of whom 30,000 live in Jerusalem. A veiled woman, a Sunni Muslim, one of the majority. An Orthodox Jew. He too turns away from the camera. Here we have an Armenian Pope. Each of the Christian denominations has its church here in the Holy City. The holy places of the three religions are scattered across a few hundred square meters. The Great Mosque is close to Christ's tomb. Further along, at the foot of the Wailing Wall, a Jew is reciting a prayer. He is wearing a Turkish tabush, and though he prays in Hebrew, his everyday language is Arabic. Jews form half the population of Jerusalem, but in the country as a whole they make up less than 5% of the total. Christians account for 10% and Muslims 85%. All of them are subjects of the Sultan of Constantinople. There are no frontiers in the Ottoman Empire. There are administrative divisions in which, in this immense territory, Palestine occupies a mere 27,000 square kilometers, made up of 3 small districts in the south of the province of Damascus. The same empire in the 17th century. In the meantime, it has lost the Balkans, France and Italy have seized North Africa. England has moved into Egypt, Aden, and even Kuwait.
So what happened? Well, the Ashkenazi Jews, the Zionists, came in from Europe and decided that this was going to be their land and their land only. And the British administrative headquarters for Mandatory Palestine, which was housed in the southern wing of the King David Hotel in Jerusalem, were bombed in a terrorist attack on July 22, 1946 by the militant right-wing Zionist underground organization Irgun during the Jewish insurgency. So it is okay for the Jews to have militants and to have all kinds of underground military operations, but when it comes to the freedom of the Palestinians, that's out of the question. You can't have any kind of insurrection, any kind of underground operation. No. That's out of the question. 91 people were killed. And who was behind all this? None other than Menachem Begin, the leader of the Irgun faction, who eventually became the Prime Minister of Israel. That gives you an idea of how the Zionists reward their terrorist leaders. A little bit more history here. 1947, this is the UN partition plan. Orange is for Jewish, yellow for Arabs. Since 1947, the Zionists have gone unopposed, massacring Palestinians time after time after time after time. They know they cannot be stopped, and so they keep doing what they do best, massacring.
My name is Alan Shabaro. I was with 3rd Special Forces Group. I was with the Commanders in Extremis Force of B-23. I was a sniper, assaulter, and a breacher. I know war. What's going on in Palestine right now is not a war. It's not. It is the dehumanization, it's the genocide, it's the ethnic cleansing of a specific people to take their land. This is not war. These are people that are defending themselves. I see this constantly where people are just repeatedly dehumanizing these people. This is wrong. And there's nothing more American than speaking out against what's wrong. I can't tell you how many times I've seen horrible things, and this takes it to an entirely new level. The U.S. taxpayer is paying for this, which makes it even more frustrating. I'm paying for this. I am seeing what's happening to this. This needs to stop. Whatever you can do, anything, this needs to stop.
So why can't the Zionists just leave these Palestinians alone, okay? We have the Gaza Strip that has a coastline of 25 miles approximately. It's 3 miles wide or 5 miles wide at its widest. If you were to look at the coastline of California, it would fit in from Pacific Palisades to San Pedro. If you were to juxtapose Gaza onto the California coast, this is what you would have, okay? It's not very big. So why not just leave it alone? Well, there's a reason why they don't want to leave it alone. The reason is that there is enormous natural gas offshore Gaza. And that's one of the reasons why the Zionists don't want a two-state solution. The other reason has to do with Bibi's lawsuits. He doesn't want to go to jail, so he needs more war. So when you combine Bibi's troubles with the genocide doctrine and the offshore gas, what you have is a recipe for disaster for Israel. And I'm not talking about the Jews. I'm talking about the Israeli Zionists, okay? The Jews, they know what they're up against. They're up against the Zionists. Okay, so let's zoom out a little bit here. For those people who are Israel first, my country, right or wrong, here's my argument for you. Let's say that the roles were reversed. Let's say that Israel was confined to a small territory the size of Gaza and had the same kind of restrictions imposed on it as Israel is imposing on the Palestinians. Furthermore, let's suppose that Israel, now confined in that small territory, 25 miles by 5 miles, was endlessly pounded, bombarded, and had its villages massacred. What do you think Israel's response should be? Now, the other thing you have to consider is this. If you believe that as a principle, as a benchmark, collective punishment is the way to go about rendering justice in the world. Collective punishment because why? Because one group inflicted some terror or another group, a small minority of that particular group inflicted terror, and so the whole group, the whole nation must be punished for the actions of a small group. If that is your thinking, if you're thinking that because the Palestinians voted into power this group called Hamas, that they are therefore guilty just as much as Hamas is for voting them in, then you have to consider this by way of logic. Because right now, the terror that is being inflicted on Palestinians has no bounds. Israel, the IDF, the Israeli occupying forces, its parliament, its prime minister have gone out of their way to completely define what an animal is. And an animal for them is a Palestinian. And so therefore, they have to be completely obliterated, annihilated off the face of the planet because they have voted in Hamas and they are Palestinians. If the same reasoning is used on the Israeli government by the world, because you, Israelis, have elected this particular government, you are therefore just as guilty, and you must suffer the same consequences that these genocidal sociopaths must suffer. Would that be a fair summary of what needs to happen here in the future with Israel? Because the universe has its way of meting out justice. Our conscious relationship with the divine, our communion with the higher vibrations, with God, give us an indication of what needs to roll out, what needs to happen in order to render justice. And so, my feeling is, this is what I'm getting from up above, my feeling is that Israel, the Zionist state of Israel, must be punished for its actions. And this is why I am praying and fasting from March the 9th in the evening to March the 10th in the evening, just before Ramadan starts, so that an equitable judgment falls upon Israel. International humanitarian law requires that the occupying power ensures the humane treatment of the population and provides for its basic needs, including food and medical care. Israel has failed to do so much in spades, and it gets away with massacres and murders and incursions because it has the United States to back it up. The United States has vetoed every resolution against Israel and will continue to do so, and therefore the United States is complicit in crimes against humanity and must fall alongside with Israel. And for those newbies that are just entering the geopolitical scene here, the Israeli Mossad has its motto, by way of deception thou shalt do war. In other words, don't believe a word we say, we're going to do whatever we want behind your back with impunity, the U.S. has our back, and so on and so forth. Now, there is serious talk that Netanyahu is going to attack Rafah, exterminate the Palestinians by March 11th, the beginning of Ramadan. This is serious, and we have to pray and fast for the Palestinians. Once again, I implore you and invite you to fast with me.
My name is Paul Adams. And if you really want to stand with the Palestinians, why don't you go homeless for a bit? I live in a van. Try that. Support them. Stand behind them. I've been like that for a few years. It's not because of the Palestinians, but I sure feel in sync with them.